Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is me, OC Steve, and I'm going to be doing something different in the world of pop culture. I mentioned it in a previous video, so I only thought it was fair to give it its own time and its own place. So I'm going to do a Weebview, or a review of the latest Demon Slayer film that has been doing box office blowouts left and right, whether it's in Japan or here in the United States. The Demon Slayer film, The Mugen Train, has just been destroying box office records in a pandemic world. So I thought I'd talk about it as a series as a whole, kind of give you a little bit of the info about the characters and the plot of the series, the film itself, and the reception worldwide to this great anime film. So without further ado, let's get into what Demon Slayer is all about. It is originally from the pages of Shonen Jump Weekly, and became its own manga in collected volumes. And this thing is now the highest grossing manga book of all time. It's broken every other record that existed before. So with its popularity, it was getting a groundswell, and it was only a matter of time till that manga got made into an anime. So it originally came out in the 2018, kind of 2019, and it's now on practically every streaming site, whether you have Crunchyroll, Funimation, even here in the United States, it has hit Netflix. So it really deals with the Taishō-era of Japan, which was between 1912 and 1926, where there was kind of this changing of ideas and Western influence. And so there was this clash between traditional fundamental Japanese values and Western style, technology with cars, trains of thought and ideas, kind of getting rid of the old to get in with the new. So that's kind of where it's set in this kind of historical location. I know in other animes, you're either out in space or you're in the far future, and they don't necessarily mention when, but that's when this story is taking place. And our main character is Tanjiro. He is kind of left to take on the family burden. He takes over his dad's role as kind of making charcoal and bringing it into his town and selling it to all the various people. And he's responsible for taking care of his brothers and sisters and his mother after his dad died. So it's his job to take up the family business and keep cash flow coming in. So on one of these journeys, when we follow him in the very first volume or episode, depending on which one you watch, he's going into town to sell the coal and stays the night at a nearby destination. Kind of somebody offers him like, hey, it's getting too dark, come stay at my house. So he stays at this house only to return to see that for the most part, his entire family was slaughtered. Disclaimer, this anime is not for the faint at heart. It's heavily R-rated, even though don't let the art style, kind of trick you. The context of what's going on is very graphic and very mature. He sees that his entire family, his brothers and sisters, for the most part, are slaughtered, except for one, which is his sister, Nezuko. Unfortunately, for some odd reason, during the fight, she has been turned into a demon. If any human comes in contact with demon blood, they themselves become possessed as a demon. So, Tanjiro takes it upon himself to subdue his sister and is befriended by a demon slayer. These are mortal people that decide to fight demons and kind of help defend and protect those that are innocent and weak from these crazy demons that have phenomenal supernatural powers and abilities. So Nezuko does, in that way, become a demon. She has the ability to alter her shape and size. Most of the weaknesses of the demons are kind of reminiscent to some of the earlier folklore myths of vampires. They can't necessarily be even in direct sunlight, or they'll just turn into ash. And the only real way to kill a demon is by decapitating them. So Tanjiro learns that right out the bat when he's befriended by this other demon slayer. And he figures the only way he's going to find a way to kind of turn his sister back into normal and seek vengeance for his family is by joining the ranks of the Demon Slayer Corps themselves. So throughout his journey, he is befriended by other people that are jaunting into the Demon Slayer Corps. Zenitsu is one of these guys. He's kind of the comedic relief of the show, if you will. He is always the coward. He's kind of the romance, the ladies' man, whether it's good or bad. He tries to always throw his best foot forward, and most of the time he usually gets slapped in the face. But it's in these moments where it's extreme almost danger, or to the point where it's almost, life-threatening, that he kind of passes out and his subconscious takes over. And his subconscious is a total badass based on this photo right here. He goes into this fight or flight mode, and it's ultra fight. He only learned one move, but he can take that one move and amp it up to 10 in his subconscious form. So he is a master of the skill of kind of almost thunder breathing, lightning breathing. So he can go really quick and really fast. Now, he kind of teams up, and this becomes this merry band of characters. Also, Nezuko can come out and help the rest of these guys at night. And since she can alter her size during the day, she's in a backpack, kind of a wooden box, if you will, on Tanjiro's back. Now, this is my favorite guy right here. Literally a wild man. Inosuke is kind of like this kind of Mowgli-esque character. He's a man of the woods, and he was raised by the wild, and he kind of takes on literally wearing a boar's head to kind of represent the fact that he is a man of the mountains. You can tell that his knives are not clean and perfect. They're serrated. He lives for the thrill of the fight and only wants to fight people to overcome them and to dominate them and destroy. Like, if one word kind of sonifies Inosuke, it is definitely rampage and destruction. Now, the one guy that does befriend Tanjiro is a master Arokudaki. This guy's really rad. He kind of teaches him his early fighting technique. For Tanjiro, it's water breathing. So he learns all the different kinds of skills like whirlpool, slash, blocks, and defense. So it kind of gives him his initial skill set so he can go into the Demon Slayer Corps. Now, all three of these guys kind of become a band of brothers, and they get their various assignments through traveling speaking crows that tell them where to go. So we followed them throughout this first season of Demon Slayer, and ultimately they are given the instructions to meet one of the higher ranking members of the Demon Slayer Corps. Now, each one of the Demon Slayer Corps members has mastered a certain form of breathing or technique. Now, there's 5 core techniques, and the one guy that they meet aboard the Mugen train, or are told to meet aboard the Mugen train, is the Fire Ashura, or the Fire Pillar, if you will, and that is Rengoku. So that's where literally season 1 ends, them boarding the Mugen train. Now, most anime movies themselves don't usually focus and have connective tissue between the series and the movie. A lot of the times, the events that take place in the movie are separate to themselves and have little influence on the larger anime series as a whole. We don't usually see this all that often. We've seen it in Evangelion, and that's usually the connective tissue because it's happened after the anime series. But this is kind of like events happening in same time that will obviously influence the second season of Demon Slayer moving forward. I'll remind you again, this movie is a hard rated R for violence, grotesque, gore, and all the other kinds of things. There's not really too much language, but the visuals speak for themselves in that regard. So I would highly advise you, this is not for kids. Don't watch it. Don't get dissuaded. Yeah, I know in Japan that they actually had like Happy Meals with toys with this, which I thought was kind of weird, but it is what it is. The Japanese culture loves to embrace things, especially anime-wise. They even did a really cool event for the Mugen train where they actually got an old powered steam locomotive to go down the traditional track, and it was kind of neat. There were some other YouTubers that caught that, and there was even cosplayers that are there. So they get aboard the train. I'm going to try not to spoil too much, but they have to befriend the Flame Ashura, ultimately Rengoku, and figure out what's going on aboard the Mugen train. Their assignment is to eliminate a demon threat, and that demon threat right here is one of the lower tier demons in the rankings, because it's almost very similar to a lot of other Shonen Jump series where there's various calibers of characters and their power and their ability, and you can train to move up. Same with the villains alike. So Inomu is kind of the master of dreams, if you will. What we find out is everybody aboard this train has slowly been eaten or killed or consumed or possessed, and it's because this guy has put everybody underneath his spell, and he's even manipulated people to keep them awake so they can never dream, to attack the others that are in a dream state, go into their dreams, find their core, their essence, or their soul while they're having this great, lovely dream, and kill them in the dream, kind of like not really Friday the 13th. It's more kind of Nightmare on Elm Street, if you will, with Freddy. He goes in there, but the difference is Freddy's not trying to scare you in this dream, in this version of Demon Slayer. He's trying to just subdue you so that they can kill you subconsciously So he can send somebody in your dreams to kill you, find your core in your soul, and then just end you while you're in this total state of bliss. Now, the three different characters, they have their own different dreams. Zenitsu wants to actually go on a date with an Nezuko, and you see that they just he wants to have this perfect relationship with her, and it's like the ideal date. It's very, happy-go-lucky. And Inosuke's dream is he's like this lord, this monster, like literally there's no transition between his mask and his head. And all the other guys, their very band of misfits, are kind of his subservient minions as they attack the train, because he kind of can't really understand the concept of a steam locomotive. He just thinks that they're all hanging inside this weird beast, if you will. And then Tanjiro's is probably the most bittersweet, because he is seeing his family and he knows it's fake. So he's kind of fighting it because he knows that his family's dead. And then they try to keep him in that dream state, and they make him almost regret. And it goes from dream to literal transition of nightmare, if you will. And so he has to literally kill himself to get out of his dreams. So then our cast of characters all wake up, they fight Inamu, and then ultimately you find out that he's fused himself with the train. So they have to find a way to kill a demon train. So they do that, they overcome him, ultimately just to find that, a higher ranking demon, Akaza, has come to try to kill Tanjiro. So then Rengoku has to step up to the plate, being more of the experienced veteran Ashura, and you see this epic fight between the two of them. He sacrifices himself to protect the people aboard the train and to protect Tanjiro's merry band of misfits. So going forward, there's a lot of stuff going into season 2 that's going to be interesting. The impact, the weight of how Rengoku sacrificing himself is going to affect Tanjiro. The fact that Tanjiro, his own father, had some kind of kinship to flame and fire breathing techniques that Tanjiro just kind of subconsciously adapts to. So maybe him exploring more of that background and learning more about flame and fire breathing, aside from water breathing, that was just kind of his natural skill set. But he doesn't even have to try, and he thinks about it, a fire dance that his dad did, and he was able to adapt that into a fighting technique in season 1. So I really think, in my own personal heart of hearts, probably Tanjiro is going to become the new Flame Ashura. I don't think he's meant for water. So that's where I think season 2 is going to go, coming out of this movie. But then I wanted to kind of close with the response of this movie. I mean, this movie has been huge in Japan. Number one, it's the highest grossing anime film of all time. It finally beat Spirited Away. It beat Your Name and Howl's Moving Castle and Ponyo, a good chunk of those Studio Ghibli films that have kind of held blockbuster dominance in Japan for at least the last 10 years and change. Totally knocked those out of the park. Continuing with its accolades, it is also one of the highest grossing box office films in Japan. It finally beat Spirited Away, which held that title. It beat Titanic. It beat Frozen. It beat the first Harry Potter. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's number one in Japan. It does show that caliber of art, drama, action, comedy, everything you want in a form of escapism. To have almost, 2 hours of fun is definitely in this film. I would say that this is not a film, if you've not experienced the series, this is not a one-off that you can go in and they're going to explain everything fully. You kind of have to know the characters' kind of quirks and ticks and their flaws before going into this film. So I'd highly suggest watching the series on any streaming platform where you can find it, whether you're a dub or a sub fan. But this is the one accolade that I enjoy the most. Out of all R-rated films, number one right now, obviously the Joker. But down here, number 18 out of 20 of the highest grossing R-rated films, it's right there. It's right below Saving Private Ryan. It's, right below Troy. And more importantly, it's right below Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So let that kind of resonate for a minute, that this movie that literally came out last year blew away records and has created its own permanent place in pop culture history. I know right now, IGN, at least the United States IGN, gave it a scathing review. They gave it a 7, but it was a backhanded kind of 7 because they didn't understand it. So I get where they're coming from. I more enjoyed IGN Japan's review, where they actually sang its praises. It talked about its cultural significance. It explained that the art and the art form of the anime and its art style is very reminiscent to the time period of the Taishō-era, and that it just really embraces Japanese culture. We have some of these really far out kind of crazy animes like Cowboy Bebop or Trigun or Evangelion that are set in this far distant dystopian future. So it's nice to kind of see a sword and sorcery fantasy anime set during a realistic time period during the Taishō-era. So that's my thoughts and opinions for now. I know that there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with other pop culture events, but I think this is one of the few things that's not being talked about in a good light. It's just more misunderstood than respected, at least by my personal standpoint. So let me know what you thought in the comments below. Are you going to watch Demon Slayer Season 1 before you go see the movie? Do you have any interest in seeing the movie? If you're a Demon Slayer fan, who is your favorite character? Obviously mine is Mr. Boreman himself. So if you're an anime fan, if you're a weeb, if you are a pop culture purveyor of useless trivia and knowledge, please like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and let's keep the conversation going. I just want to have fun and talk about interesting things that normally get kind of shuffled underneath the board. So I'll catch you on the next video.